Who cares if it's a double wide trailer or a tiny house? It's a marketing thing.
Mm.
It's about having a quality of life. And, we can get into zoning laws and all the other things that go along with it and why, economics and redlining. There's a whole lot to it. But the bottom line is we need a place to rest our head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my wife and I, we have 2 Mastiffs. We need a little more space than the standard. Actually, they'd love it actually if we're all in just one room and laying on top.
They would be on top of you, yeah.
They think they're lap dogs. But we have like this marketing thing, like tiny homes are fancy and nice and mobile homes are not. Like they're both the same thing, just different.
So as far as zoning goes, there's not much of a difference. I mean, it's but you brought up a good point as far as like when you take out a mortgage, you're still borrowing. You're still essentially renting from the bank, for lack of a better term. Like you don't own that house. The bank can come and take it, just like a landlord can evict. So, well, different reasons, but it's not your property until you've got the deed in your hands.
Yeah. So let's take a look at that self-assessment.
Yeah.
So the first question I like to ask is, are you settled in your career, life, or whatever? And I ask this because as child-free folks, we've got a lot more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I, she got a great opportunity. We packed up the dogs and the cat and drove 1,200 miles and moved. It just wasn't a big deal. Didn't have to worry about school systems. Didn't have to worry about, hey, whatever. And if you're not settled, which really means you're going to be there for 5 to 7 years, renting's the answer. Now, there's calculators that will do the math, and it might be 4 years or it might be 5. You're not settled. You don't need a house yet. By the way, family and friends might encourage you to settle down. Like, well, you need to, grow up and settle. Stop. I'm not going to ignore you on that one too. Like what they're trying to do is get you to stay. Well, my mother still wants me to move back to right across from her house if had her choice, but that doesn't mean that's a choice for me. So if you are not settled in your career and your life, renting is a good way to do it. And we're going to pay for we're going to plan for the rental increases. But the bonus of renting is when my lease is up, boom, I can go wherever I want. And that freedom has a value. If you're buying a house, one of the things to think about is as soon as you buy the house, if you don't put more than 6% down, you're already underwater because it costs 6% to get out of the house.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about having the right amount of money, but you're hoping it goes up. Never a guarantee. It's been going up, and there's a good likelihood if there's nothing wrong with your area. And some areas do better than others, and you can flip houses and all that. But is that really what you want to do? And are you ready to settle down? Cody, I'm assuming you're settled down.
I'm here. Yeah, we've been in the same house for quite some time. So, but you raise a great point with the time frame, because for those of us that lived through 2008 and saw what happened with the housing market, where basically houses were being overinflated with their value, getting second, third mortgages, I think even fourth mortgages sometimes. This crazy amount of mortgages. And then, as they say, the housing bubble burst, where basically the housing values weren't there to back up what the money owed on them was.
Yeah.
Not saying that is kind of what might be happening in the near future now, but if you're looking at buying a house in the next 3 to 5 years, if you're not going to plan on being in that house, if you have to move for job reasons or be in your family or something happens, right now houses they're all hitting all-time highs. Like all the scales show them just going up and up and up. So if you're going to buy a house right now, within 2 years, if you had to move, that might be something you want to consider, because the housing market could be totally different and not in your favor. And that's not a good thing. We all saw it happen, and it took years to recover from it.
And I apologize, Cody. I'm going to go down a path, and I apologize in advance. And if you buy a house and politics change and all of a sudden you want to leave your state, you're screwed. We are 3 weeks post Roe right now. Okay, I'm a little sensitive.
It's an extremely valid point, because before it's like, well, your job, or like I mentioned, being in your family, and now it could be for another reason that you have to move for your own safety. So
your own values. Okay, and I'm talking to people right now that are having this debate about moving for reproductive rights and for values and all that. Very good arguments. And I understand it. My wife and I had the debate, and we're like, we're in Mississippi. Okay. So that's where the Dobbs case came from. And it's rough times right now.
Thanks, Dr. J.
Yeah, exactly. That was before my time.
Just kidding.
But the debate we were having was, do we move to where our values are, or do we stay here and fight? We're going to stay and fight, but it's not easy. Try running a child-free financial planning company in Mississippi.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Friendly.
I can imagine.
But the point is, if you're renting, screw it, I'm out.
Mhm.
And with work from home now, I can work from anywhere and just say, you know what? I don't agree with the politics. I don't agree with this year. Bye.
Yeah. And some people might argue it's like, well, if you own the house, then maybe you can rent it out and you can find. I mean, yes, but there is a time lapse in there, and we can get into nest eggs and finances of your personal means.
Listen, you do not want to be a remote landlord, because if you're 1,200 miles away and you're trying to rent out your house, you're just asking somebody to destroy that house without you watching it. Remember, if you're going to rent out something, I'm going to be a landlord. Cool. That means if the hot water heater blows, it's your problem. And if you're across the country, it's still your problem.
Mm-hmm.
So the second one, kind of this self-assessment. I apologize. I went down politics. It's on my mind right now.
It's all right. It's on everybody's mind right now.
Do you have a family friend or some other social reason why you got to stay in the community? If that's the case, cool. By the way, couples is a weird one. I have people, well, I'm dating so-and-so, so I should buy a house. Okay. If you really think it's going to go that far.
Yeah.
A lot of times it doesn't. It's just, dating doesn't always go that way. But do you have a social reason to be there? If you don't, you're more likely to want to rent and see what happens. Who knows? You might find that new love interest across the country in this world and move.
Yeah.
Not that Cody and I are married. We don't remember that dating stuff.
Thank God, man. It's crazy out there. The apps. That's where there's always someone talking about someone should create a child-free dating app. Trust me, there are ones out there because I see people bringing them up in social media areas. But then I also see them all fail because there are not enough people to support it. I mean, it's a great idea, but I'm so glad that don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So here's the third question for you. Why do you want to buy a house? Not why does anyone else say you need to buy a house? And when I ask people this question, I usually get well, I've been told. That's not you. Well, you have to. No, that's not you. Why do you want to buy a house? So I'll give you an example. So, this goes to the next question of, do you enjoy home maintenance? My wife and I bought an 1880s house and we rebuilt it. I enjoyed it. I was rebuilding windows and things, learned a lot of cool skills, broke a lot of things, cut myself, it's kind of part of the nature. But we wanted to buy a house because I wanted to have a project. That's why we wanted it. We're out here right now. We got 33 acres. We're in the middle of nowhere for a reason. I don't want to be around everybody else. Like I'm in rural area. Luckily, there's good internet. But I enjoy that. But why do you want to buy a house? And I have people go, well, but I need a space for my dogs. Cool. You can rent a place with dogs. It is possible. Well, I want to have a house. Cool. You can rent a house. Well, I want to have a garden. Well, you can do a community garden or rent a house with a garden. It's a question of why do you want to do it? And unfortunately, as we peel it back, it's this American dream or this expectation or life script. And I go, well, is that the life you want? And that's where people pause and go, well, I never thought about it. And it's
yeah. And when you get to the base of it, as we talked about, it's kind of what you're told in the life script. It's because that house is passed down to the next generation to get them off on the right foot, to give them somewhere to live. And for child-free people, not necessarily something we have to worry about. Whenever the meteor takes me out, then if my wife's still around, then she's got the house. But if the meteor takes both of us out, then it goes into the will of what's going to happen with our estate, and then there you go. But child-free people, we don't have that burden of legacy. People talk about legacy like it's a great thing. There's also a huge burden to it, to where there's a lot of sacrifices that you do have to make in your life that makes your life a little bit more difficult for the sake of legacy. We don't have that. We don't have to worry about that necessarily. Now, you can have a gold statue erected in the town of your birth if you want. That's fine. But as far as passing on a home, we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, a home comes with work. Let's be real. So one of the questions is, do you enjoy home maintenance? So Cody, what project is going on in your house right now?
Oh God. um, so many things. Just right now, finding a contractor to help because I can do some things, but I'm not going to knock a hole in my wall. I'm not as brave as you are to deal with electrical. So we're looking for contractors we're looking at having some exterior doors added into our house, and removing windows. So that's going on. Yeah, but
If you ask any homeowner what project is going on, there's a list. Me, I have to paint
oh, the garbage disposal just broke. So I got to get that fit. Like literally, it just broke like 2 days ago. So yeah.
Yeah, I got to paint the soffits, which are that top part around the gutter. Well, where the gutters go, I don't have gutters. But the one over here is like 30 feet high, and I don't know how I'm going to get it done because I can't get a contractor
to live.
Like, I can't do it myself. Like, I can do the lower ones, but that one's little. Like, those things are every day.
Yeah.
And that ignores when my wife goes, "Hey, I hear water running." That's never a good sign. If you ever had that,
unless you live by a river or something.
For us in the middle of winter, we're in Mississippi. It's warm, but we had an outside pipe break, and just like, and if you can't do that basic maintenance, getting somebody to come do it right now is nearly impossible. So you have to want to do the maintenance. That's just bottom line. And people go, "Well, I like painting." That painting's the easy part, okay? Yeah. It's the
some places that you rent, you can paint. Some landlords don't care. They're like, "Yeah, fine, paint the walls chartreuse. I don't care." But you have to take them back to the original color when you leave, or pay for it. But yeah, if you want to paint, you can still find that in renting.
Yeah, so make sure you enjoy it. The other thing is you have to plan for it. So on average, a house will have 1% of its value in home maintenance each year, but it comes very lumpy. So like when the roof needs to get replaced, it's like my roof, I think it was 15,000. I just had to do it, something like that. And then the driveway needs giant numbers. You might have years where you have very little, but then the next year the heating of or AC will go, and there's another 10 grand. Like, it's very, very lumpy, but you have to plan on 1%.
And you and I, we both live in hurricane centrals. Like hurricanes can. That time of year, we're always on the hurricane watch list. So, yeah.
Cody, did you have to bring up the hurricane?
I mean, it's a fact. It's a fact. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, weather conditions. If you live in Tornado Alley in the Midwest or something, like there's, reasons where, again, renting looks, and that's kind of maybe the take we're putting on this is like renting isn't always bad.
So, okay. So I just drove way too much. And when you drive for many, many miles, you start thinking. And I was like, I think the next time we're just going to rent like a townhouse where I don't have to do anything. And then I can put more money in the boat and go hang out on the boat on the weekends. Like I'm like, that might.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the reality of trying to maintain. And, it's a challenge.
Well, leaning into that, like even owning a home or renting, some people live on a boat. Like Childfree people, people with kids can do it too. I've seen some stories where families live on a boat and they want to do Swiss Family Robinson or whatever. But Childfree people you can live on a boat, and you can anywhere you want to dock is now your home. So owning a home doesn't necessarily mean brick and mortar.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about boats because that's much more expensive. And that's where I'm going. I mean, 15 years from now, we're going to live on a boat full time. The current one, by the way, Cody, and it's just an age thing. The current one is van life, where you buy. Used to be the old VW vans, and you live in it. I get it. No, not me. But it works.
Yeah.
All right. So here's my last question. So if you decide I want to buy a house, I want to do it, I want to do the maintenance, how do I know I'm financially ready? Here's how this works. And by the way, I just did an article with this on somebody, and they said, when your loans, like interest rates are going up, what should you do? The answer is you might have to wait. That's just financial.
Yeah. So
here's the things I want you to have before you buy a house. I want you to be out of debt. Now people go, well, but I'd never be out of debt. Well, then we need to fix that first. Because the reality is if you got $20,000 in credit card debt and then your roof goes, you're screwed.
And student loans is the big thing now. So, I mean, people.
We got student loans, we got car, we got credit cards. You want that debt gone before you take on debt of a loan or mortgage. You go, well, but I may never afford a house. You might not. That is the truth. And that's okay. So we get out of debt. We're living on a budget. We got 20% down. People go, well, that's crazy. I live in California, and that would be, I don't know, a couple $100,000.
That'd be a lot.
Yes, that is a lot. But here's the thing. If you put down less than 20%, you're going to be paying PMI, private mortgage insurance, which is not for you. That is only for the lender. You're paying extra money just for the honor of having the loan. You can get a loan with as low as 3.5% down. 3.5% down means you are underwater on the house the day you move in. You can also, if you get a VA loan, you can actually put 0% down. But if you're not disabled, the fees that you have are going to actually cost you a lot more to have a VA loan. It's kind of a weird thing that we charge the vets more, but it's kind of how it works for the honor of having a 0% loan. So it's possible, not financially a great idea. So, okay, great. We have no debt. The other thing we have to have is an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of oops, which, by the way,
we all just went through.
Something will go oops. And 20% down. Well, most people are going to say, well, I have to put off buying a house. Yep, probably do, especially in this housing market, which means then I have to plan on rents going up. And yep, that is true. I don't have a great answer on the housing side in general, but buying a house before you're ready is the way they call it, being house poor, where the home owns you. That's not a good idea for anyone.
And maybe you have to curtail your expectations. You don't get the, 5-bedroom McMansion. You get a little 2-bedroom bungalow somewhere instead. Just be a little bit more reasonable and then focus on what the next house might be if you want to have another house in the future as well.
Well, there's some rules. So in general, every 15 minutes you get outside of town, it starts getting cheaper. You can look at it. You go, well, I'll buy a house and fix it up. Cool. That's a good way to put a lot of money into it. Hope you can do all the work. If you can, that's great. If not, get a contractor right now to answer. And Cody can't even get him to answer the phone.
Well, and you mentioned like going out of the area in my city, the outside areas. Everyone initially started to move there because the taxes were cheaper. And I told people, it's like, well, they're cheaper right now. Right. Once they get you out there living there, that's all going to change. And it did. Everybody for the past few years has been complaining about how much they're paying in taxes now out in the outlying counties. It's like, well, yeah, because they got you. Like, you're there. You've got the 2.5 kids, the 3 cars in the driveway, every subscription possible. Like, you're so far in debt, you're not going to move, and they know that. So they're going to get you.
Well, and there are huge variations in, taxes. My house here in Mississippi, I pay about $1,800 a year in taxes. I had the same price of a house in Connecticut. It was $12,000 a year. I don't know what the difference I got in services or whatever it was, but I mean, giant numbers.
Yeah. The water's still wet that comes in the pipes. So, I mean,
well, that I got to pay for separately.
My goodness. So we've kind of bounced around a little bit, but so I don't know if you want to dive into this a little bit more, just hit the highlights. So the benefits of owning a house. Yeah.
So the great thing of a house is you're building equity. Historically, home values have gone up as long as something crazy doesn't happen. People talk about, well, the prices are going to come down now. 2008 they did, but that was kind of the last time that's happened. I don't know. So historically, that does it. Why people end up buying a house is they like leverage. So I can get debt, I pay off the debt, do that. When people go, well, but I get to write off the mortgage interest. Not really, because 90% of people take the standard deduction. So you're not actually writing off the mortgage interest.
And again, going back to what you said about if politics change in the future, that could all change as well. Who knows?
Yeah. But you have some equity you're gaining. So people go, well, I'm not throwing my money away by renting. You're not throwing it away. You're paying for housing either way. A percentage of the money you pay each month goes to principal. By the way, when you have a mortgage and you look at that number, it's very, very, very small, depressingly small. But really what you're doing is you're borrowing money from someone else and hoping the house goes up. You might get right. Land is one of the few things that they're not making any more of. So that's part of the reason why I have a bunch of land. So it's nice. It's a nice investment way. We're going to talk a little later. There's other ways to get access to it. But you're building equity by borrowing money. And this is where, like, I encourage people to pick one recipe and stick to it. If you want to be on the debt train, this is the Grant Cardones of the world. He's 10Xing and you can leverage this. That's what he talks about. Cool. If that's what you want to do, great. but you're taking on risk. Each time you take out debt, you take on risk.
Mhm.
It is possible to buy a house with cash. That's the best way to do it. You have to save a lot of money to do it, but it is possible. But the benefit is you got that asset. And the downside is if it gets blown away in the hurricane that Cody just hoped on me, you've got to insure, you've got to do all that. By the way, if you do own a home right now, make sure your homeowner's insurance has enough coverage. I've been doing this with a lot of my clients, and many, many, many do not have enough coverage. And the reason is house home values have gone up, and so have the cost for replacing it, and your home insurance hasn't kept up.
Especially flood insurance in some areas that never thought they had to have flood insurance. 100-year floods are happening like every year now. So if you live anywhere near a river or a body of water, yeah.
The one on benefit, people say, well, if I have my house, I can do what I want. Depends. Got to check with your HOA, zoning, building. I'm here in Mississippi. I can do whatever I want. Okay, that's just I'm on a rural area. If I wanted to build another building behind here, nobody would even bat an eye. When I was in Connecticut, you had to get a permit to get a fence, to have a business in there, like even just like to have a computer and do a business. You had to have a permit for anything. I had to go in front of a committee. I had to get a permit to plant stuff in the ground for a farm. Okay, depends on your area. Whether you get actually more freedom by owning the house or not. Others, if you're in a homeowners association, watch out because their limits are very specific. This color of yellow is okay. This shade is not. Like
the font on your mailbox must be this and this big. It's like
you all think we're joking. We are not.
No,
okay.
No.
It is rather silly. One of the ones that's fun to debate with an HOA is my dog fits the breed restrictions or not. So they say no large dogs. Well, who determines what large is? Like, no pit bulls. Well, what percentage pit bull? Like, I mean, it gets kind of interesting.
And so we've got benefits of renting now. Yeah.
So when you rent, bonuses, you move, no big deal. You and a U-Haul truck are friendly. By the way, I'm getting too old to do the U-Haul. Next time I'm paying somebody to move. But the bonus is if the hot water heater breaks, not your problem. By the way, if you are renting, you should still have renter's insurance to cover your stuff. Your stuff, they're not covering. But if the hot water heater blows, you call the company, you fight with them. That's always normal. And you say, hey, I need to get this fixed. It's on them. That's the bonus. Downside is you're limited on what you can do. Some places, you're right. Some places you get, I always love, if you can rent from somebody who owns the whole house, not a corporation, and you're like, hey, I'll fix it up and maybe give me a discount on the rent. Like, that's a beautiful setup. Those are few and far between because a lot of corporations own stuff now. The downside is, well, the rents are going up crazy, like 10, 20, 30%. Not much you can do about that except move. Historically, you could get more place for renting than you would for a mortgage because you're paying just that monthly and without the maintenance. Now, not so much. So you may have to do the same thing as a house, is look at living further away and other things. The other thing for renting, I have a lot of people now talking about they want to live like bi-coastal or they want to do 6 months here, 6 months there or whatever. That's all possible.
Yeah.
I've got people now thinking about like this digital nomad life, but like I'm going to do Airbnb or VRBO in like a month here, a month here. That's possible. By the way, you need a minimalist life to do that because you're not moving a lot of stuff. But that works. And that is a benefit of renting.
So for people that don't want to miss out, they want to get investing in real estate.
Yeah. So people go, well, I need to buy a house as an investment. Well, the truth is the house you buy as an investment is different than the house you buy for yourself. Real simple. If I wanted to buy an investment, some of the 3 doors, like a multifamily, going to get me more per square foot on that. Actually, interestingly enough, if you really want to make money in real estate right now, the hot market is self-storage. You see the self-storage facilities, how much they make per square foot? That's huge.
Yeah.
What I would make for investing is not necessarily what I buy for myself. So people go, well, but I want to buy this house. Cool. Well, I want to redo the kitchen. That's not an investing decision because you're not going to get the money back out.
Now you're playing house flipper, which might not be a good gamble.
Well, the shows make it look so good.
Yeah.
There's a couple of house flipping shows now that show the reality of, well, they went over budget and they lost money. Like I always love those. The housing shows are always fun to watch. They're like, hey, I weave baskets and, she plays the flute and we can afford $1 million house. And I'm like, how? So as an investment in real estate, it does work, but you want to think about what are my purposes? So I have people that rent houses, but invest and then rent it to other people. I mean, that's an option. Used to be, actually growing up, my parents did this. They had a 2-family house. You'd live on one floor and rent out the other to help pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
Duplex, those work, but those are investment properties that are being sold to investors, not homeowners. So that changed it. The other thing is, if you decide, hey, I'm going to rent for the rest of my life, well, you can get access to investing by buying what's called REITs, real estate investment trusts. They're essentially like stocks. You buy them, and they have to send out most of the money back to you. You can actually you can do some fun stuff. You can do like, hey, I only want to invest in self-storage or commercial or doctor's offices or real estate. You can get a weird mix. And if you're doing kind of the just standard investing, I buy all the stocks in the United States, a wide on an ETF, you've already got exposure to real estate. Most of them got like 3-4% are in real estate already. So you already have some exposure. So it's not like, hey, if I'm renting, I'm missing out because I don't have real estate. You can move money around and invest it differently to make up for it, to match your life. That's the bigger point of this. It's not about like, I have to buy a house or I have to rent. It's about what life do you want to live?
I would agree with that. I completely agree with that. And if you want to be a homeowner and you like doing things around a house and having a constant to-do list, then that's great. And especially if you get to the point to where you've paid the house off, it's your house, like with what happened in 2020, you don't have to worry about necessarily losing your house. Like, if you don't pay your taxes, that's a different story, but no one's going to kick you out because you're not paying your mortgage or something along those lines. So look at what's feasible for you. And, I like to always say, live within your means if you can. Most people don't like that idea, but live within your means. If you're renting, don't be ashamed of renting. There's nothing wrong with that. There's great plans that you can set up for yourself and enjoy a great life as a renter. There's nothing wrong with that. So
yeah, and I think the thing is, follow your own script. I don't care what it is. If your script includes housing, great. Buying a house, great. If you want to, if you want to have that land and the horse would go with it. By the way, the horses are really expensive. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
Have it match your life.
Yeah. So Dr. J, childfreewealth.com. Give us a little plug. What's going on there?
Yeah. So I am a financial planner. I call myself a child-free wealth specialist. I work with child-free folks to help them figure out, hey, what do I want to do? This housing thing is a really common discussion. Where do I want to go? Where do I invest in? All that. So we do financial planning. I do offer a no-cost 60-minute intro meeting. So if you want to come there and chat about your finances, what happens, great. And I also just put out a new book, Portraits of Child-Free Wealth. And in honor of the Child-Free Convention, I am actually giving it away. So childfreewealth.com/book. You can actually enter your email, get an electronic version of it. And we'll put that bill to Cody.
Very cool. Well, I was going to say very cool. Wait a minute. No, but thanks for doing that. That's awesome.
This is a collection of 26 stories of people all across the U.S. living their best child-free life. So take a look at it. We're all out there. Like we pretend like child-free people are like this small group.
Yeah.
We just studied Michigan, found 27% of us. We just got to start talking to each other. So hopefully we can do that. I've
read the book. It's great because you odds are you're going to find somebody that is close to paralleling what your life is. So it kind of gives you, there is someone out there that is kind of in the same standpoint and, financial boat as me. So it's a good read. All right. Well, Dr. J, thank you for your time. Everybody, thanks for watching. Comments and questions, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Just do it. Anyway, we'll catch you next time. We will talk about wills and documents in episode 16. So another rousing and fun topic on the way.
It actually is with all the politics stuff.
It is.
You're going to talk about wills as fun? No, we need to.
Legal documents are going to be a really big deal here in the very near future. So don't want to miss that one. So anyway, catch you later. Thanks.